Hello everyone, I'm Slinkbot35, and in this video, I'll be covering the first three issues of the Murder Drones comic. This was something originally I was super excited for. I remember thinking that Murder Drones was back and that we would get some really good content here. I've seen a lot of people rip this comic to shreds over the past few months, and while I do agree most of their criticisms are valid, I'm here to share my take on it. What I think is good, what I think is bad, and where I think the comic falters, where the show does better. And with that out of the way, it's video time. The opening of the first issue starts the exact same as episode 1, because why wouldn't it? You'll notice some of the art is different, but that's mainly because of the panel structure. Since they can't have as many visual shots as the show, they often condense things without losing their meaning. At least, for now, that is. And then a full page art of the murder drones wreaking havoc. And of all the full page art in this video, I think this one takes the cake. Not only the coolness factor, but also just how impactful it is on the story. It then cuts to Uzi in her classroom. And hey, Doll is sleeping before Uzi mentions her sick as hell railgun. Just like in the show. Great attention to detail. Now, this is where the flaws in the comic start to show. Here, the teacher, whose eyes I think is a bit too yellow, but that might be nitpicking, mentions, "Is your railgun supposed to be that color?" And in the show, Uzi's railgun turns red, but here, it stays green. So it doesn't really make much sense. Come on, comic. I just praised you for having attention to detail. Don't ruin it yet. Here the comic commits the ultimate crime. Reusing panels! I can't be talking because I used to do the exact same thing, but just like me, hopefully it doesn't continue. They removed a bunch of the background details, which is sad because those were pretty funny. And before switching over to the Neon Ichiban version, they had mistaken Thad's name for Chad. He was just talking to Chad in the last sentence. How did you manage to mess that up? There's something I've noticed. See, for every cool page of art, they also have a page that's a cool brick wall full of text. And I get it, this show has a lot of dialogue, but could you maybe cool it with how many brick walls you can put per panel? Because at some point it gets hard to see the art. Most people reading this are already Murder Drones fans, and they already have the animated show. If that's the case, then why not give us more of the art? We're reading this for the medium. Here's the first time they skip over something, and honestly, it's not too bad. They mention how Uzi stole Khan's door key here, so it feels less like cutting a scene and more like skipping a cutscene. This is what I mean by adapting it to the medium. You obviously can't fit everything due to the page count, so who cares if you skip something that wasn't necessary? Just make sure that the story comes first. Remember that. I really like how they show the world of Murder Drones here. Even the corpse fire itself is just such an iconic part of the series, it would feel wrong not to showcase it. Another point I have to praise the art on is how it shows motion in stillness. Like here, how they redid how En's head regrows in the series, so that way they can more accurately show it in the comics. Another comic-only change, so En now has heart eyes for V, which, while making him look extremely goofy, does fit what we see in the J special about how En does like tormenting and killing the worker drones. They also changed some of the text around, but it's pretty much the same as the show, but dumbed down. Which, why make the change at all? Hey, remember this part where J is on the landing pod and En faces the chair? Yeah, remember that. It'll be important later. Then you have this scene, which has some really cool artwork, but also shows En as he's going to leave. And then he says he's gonna leave again. Why? Also, I just find it interesting how they changed the flag and the text that En says, but it doesn't really amount to anything, so, again, why? Here's the change that they also made for the comic. As you can see, En catches up to Uzi, and already blast through the door. But how did he do this? Like, I get N is faster and he should be able to catch up to Uzi, but in the show, N opened the doors because Uzi was closing it. Unless the doors were already closed, N shouldn't be able to open it. Why didn't he do that before? Did he not think about doing that? In the J special, it should be noted that he is trying to break into the base. In fact, thinking up new ways because the old ways didn't work. So you're telling me this man never thought to just open the door? How stupid is that? They then have N only kill one worker drone on screen, which definitely reduces the impact. We know they're menacing, yes, but this is supposed to show just how powerful and just how much of a threat the murder drones were. Without it, it feels like something's missing. Can you guess what time it is? That's right, it's character assassination time! Instead of looking horrified at N, slowly walking away, and after a solemn look, shutting the door behind him, he just sort of runs away. It turns Khan from a complex character into someone who just doesn't care about his family. Hey, here's something that could be interesting. Uzi and Jay are both talking to N about how the other side is evil, and N has to pick which side is correct. And Jay tries to kill N. Okay, well, now you get the Uzi versus V and J fight, right? I mean, Uzi's railgun doesn't have a cooldown, as we saw earlier, so this could lead to something interesting. But they don't. V and J fly away, which, why do they? V likes killing worker drones, Uzi hates the murder drones, and J kills workers for the company, aka Sin. There's no reason why any of them don't want to fight each other. Alright, it's time for the big epic battle. Some of the art is a bit crammed because of all the text on screen, but hey, at least they included it. Here we have Uzi doing the textbook definition of flipping out and firing her railgun, and knocks V down for the count in what's basically 5 seconds, and now we're back to Uzi and Jay. But wait, what's with the whole railgun explosion in the background? If Uzi's railgun doesn't need to recharge, why doesn't she just fire again? Wait, wasn't the railgun blast headed straight towards her? Now, granted, she does dodge a similar railgun shot in episode 8, but the problem with that, though, is that you're using the show as a reference. You shouldn't have to use outside media to understand something. And with one more panel reuse, which at least it's shaded, that's not even something I can do, the fight ends. I sure hope they don't cut any other parts of fight scenes going forward, because that would be idiotic. Finally, at the end, Uzi's eyes glitch similar to Solver Uzi from episode 4, while in the show, they glitch more like Sin-controlled Uzi from episode 7. Personally, I prefer that version because it helps build up Sin, even if we haven't met that character yet. Well, this is a lie now. They fixed the Chad Thad thing when switching over to the Neon Ichiban version, but they didn't fix these release dates. I don't know why, they probably thought we wouldn't care, but speak for yourself, I care. Overall, I think Comic Issue 1 is definitely worse than Murder Drones Episode 1. It's got a lot of problems in the terms of writing and storytelling. Because of how much the Murder Drones comic is rushed to meet page count, that means scenes with action or tension can't really hit the same as it does in the show. Overall, I'll give it a 5 out of 10. It's not good, but it could definitely be worse. Here's the cover they use on the hardcover of the book, and I think it looks gorgeous. This is the issue 2 cover art as well, which it's a bit lame that they didn't use a different cover art instead of just reusing one from the regular issues, but it looks so good I don't mind. Besides, they even got the reflections. I'll be mentioning the starring page now for this issue because it has 2 oddities I would like to mention. The first is the fact that it mentions Khan as Uzi's dad, just in case you didn't know who that is, and the fact that it also mentions Jay, even though Jay should be dead. Jay being back is confusing, but also a bit of a spoiler. Same could be said about Doll here having the solver, because she hasn't been formally introduced yet. Here we start with the Elliot Manor, just like in the show, rendered in stunning detail. It makes me wonder what would have happened in the original version, since episode 5 is a special issue. Did they always plan that? Or are they just gonna have it in the in-between sections? They show Sin here, but not Tessa, which is kinda important for later. Also, Jay only has half her visor in the picture for some reason. Well, don't worry about the past, because we're in the spaceship. But to go back to the past, they did leave V behind, so it doesn't make much sense for V to be in the spaceship currently. Though, just like in the show, I do wonder how they got the chain to tie her up with. The chain isn't featured anywhere else. And yes, this is issue 2's problem, because it could have been something cool. Maybe this could have gone into how V met up with Lizzie. Here's something that the comic does better. In the show, Jay's body got destroyed and then was magically back in episode 2. But here, they never showed that, so it makes more sense. And I'll tell you, this full page art looks incredible. I would have added some code or solver details in the background, but that's the only change I would make. But spoiler alert, there's a lot of scenes cut later on, so this could better be used for one of those instead. I swear, if they had to shoehorn text here, and on the next page there's more brick walls of text. No! But hey, at least they added a blue highlight around the drawing so you could see it in comparison to the background. That's nice. No, don't tell me you gave the corpse Spyro Zempic. It looks fine over here, so what was the deal with the last picture? Nah, bro really went from Little Mac to Big Mac. Also, Thad mentions how he didn't see Jay's corpse and it was missing. However, we know that the cleanup crew already went there and so they should have already cleaned it up by now. Why is this such a big surprise? In the show, they specifically mentioned it crawled away, which, in my opinion, is a lot more worrying. I like the shading on the holograms here. Just like the animation, I praise the art for also capturing the realistic lighting that the show has. Oh, here we have Lizzie and Doll. But they repeat the same panel of Doll with only some added text. This looks really bad. We get to see more of Doll's parents dying than in the show, which I guess is a positive. Lizzie then goes to confront fake hologram Lizzie, but we don't get the end of the scene like in the show. In the show, this is meant to tell us that Doll had the silver and knew how to actively use it, whereas here, it just feels like filler because it's never expanded upon. You realize there's a whole nother scene with Eldridge J that happened before Uzi, N, and Thad get there. Why not include that here? It's better than just starting something that's not finished. Hey, I'm just gonna mention this even though it's a complaint about General Episode 2. Why is there just some random sign with the absolute solver here? Now, don't get me wrong, I believe Uzi should know how to read this because she does do drone hacking. Code should come naturally. But why is that even there in the first place? Is it a byproduct of Eldridge J? See, Eldridge J is the definition of less is more. It almost seems omnipotent in the show, how it encases and unravels the room around you. But the problem is that since it's not in the dark and you can clearly see it, it looks a lot less scary than in the show. So we're just revealing Eldridge J now, huh? We're not gonna do the whole build-up to reveal thing? You guys started doing that, and then you decided not to. Okay then. I guess Eldridge J doesn't matter. And I understand how Eldridge J isn't a massive part of the plot, but it was a pretty cool moment. Okay, brick walls, I'll give you a pass. That's only because there's not that much cool art here. If there was, trust me, I'd be a lot meaner. But hey, they got the teacher's eye color right. It's actually orange this time. I like how they connect episodes 2 and 3, with Khan being notified from the teacher that a prom is going on, and Lizzie's disappointed at Doll for leaving when they thought they were going to do something way later. And honestly, it should have been way later, but as the comic says, nope, we're doing it now. This one change is what forever dooms this issue, because they cannot tell both of these stories in this short amount of time. That's 36 minutes split between 25 pages. That just doesn't work. And here we have the comic, which can't decide whether to do exposition or a cool moment from the show, so it decides to do both. Yay! Jay's not here. We are currently trying to repair that host as per our directive. That part was in the build-up. We already know it's Jay. Stop showing things out of order. Now, admittedly, these are some cool panels, but they also shorten the fact that Khan gets ripped in half and is revealed to be a hologram all into one panel, which doesn't work because that was part of a fight scene. And, it doesn't make any sense. I feel like that's obvious. And just like that, it's over. Wow, they did not care about Eldridge J at all. Not to mention they cut away from it halfway through to show a scene with the teacher and Khan that was with the scene with Doll and Lizzie earlier. Why not just include it with that? It would have made the pacing so much better just keeping it exactly how it was in the show. And with one copy and pasted panel, it's over. No, seriously, we don't get to see the whole black hole soul thing that comes out of Jay. Which is kind of a problem because that explains how Jay comes back and retains all of her memories. It also says dead in a speech bubble, which not only can't happen, but I think we know it's dead, guys. We're not 4. This is the part where N says, I should go check on V. For plot reasons that were explained in the show but not here. And it's a really easy fix, too. You could just have Khan say, oh, N, where's your murder friend from before? Oh, right, V, I should go check on her. See, guys? It wasn't that hard to add something that makes sense. Ending for episode 2? What are you talking about? It's time for episode 3, guys! Episode 3! Yeah, we might have cut the first third of episode 3. Episode 3, guys! Let's just focus on that! But in all seriousness, this is just ridiculous at this point. You cut so much from episode 2, and now to follow that up, they cut so much from episode 3. Truly a disgrace. Hey look, it's these panels again. This is somehow the better version, because in the original they didn't bother to edit out Jay's pigtails. So you could clearly see on the spacecraft that it was Jay. But I guess they just hoped that you wouldn't notice that. Also, the only thing different about the second one is just N's dialogue. This is ridiculous. How do you expect me to defend some of this? Hey, so cool letter and drawing, but I noticed a bit of an issue. How does V know that N knows about the manor? No, seriously, we get no dialogue like we do in the show. We're going into episode 3, an episode primarily centered around Uzi and V, not having any development around V. This sucks. Alright, it's prom time. You know what that means. Hit it, DJ. Wait, do my eyes deceive me? A page that actually takes advantage of the fact that it's a comic and does something cool with it? They changed Lizzie's line, to make her act less like Lizzie. Just in case you hate character continuity. No, N, you had that line earlier, remember? Oh wait, you didn't get to say that line because they cut yet another scene. But you know what really grinds my gears? The fact that Uzi mentions how she thought V would have killed everyone by now. Meaning that, yes, her and N did meet up beforehand, and N told her about V going to kill everyone at the prom. But they just never show that. Okay, why don't we get to see why Doll's solver fails here? We know it's because that Uzi also has the solver, but that's not explained here. And honestly, I think that's really lame, because Murder Drones is such a confusing show already. It is genuinely difficult to make a show more confusing than Murder Drones. Loading! Dapper deflection! Dapper dodge! Counterattack type! Dapper! Well, there's 2 possibilities. The first is that they thought it wasn't understandable enough, which if they wanted to, they could have added more panels. Or they thought that it was a really funny joke. And it was funny the first time, but yeah, it's not that funny. In the show, N has a cut in his side that's actually dangerous. But here, it's not dangerous because N somehow pulls a tis but a scratch. Alright, guys, it's time for Doll to start throwing tables. Wow, I guess there were no tables. Also, what do you mean, grr? Doll's not a dog. You know, I find it interesting how V shoots the back of Doll's head, but then Doll shoots the back of V's head in Murder Drone's revival code. That's because Doll remembered that, and she's a revenge-driven character. The more you know. Episode 9 is coming soon. Just give me some time. And I don't know how you're confusing Doll's family with a bunch of worker drones Doll ate and killed. But in case you don't know, that's what you're looking at, okay? You can't just use important sentences in the wrong context. That's just bad writing. In the show, Uzi using her solver didn't look intentional, but here it does, which doesn't make much sense because Uzi doesn't know she can use the solver like that yet. What, was it just a lucky guess? How did she use it to block a bullet on her first try? And they move the scene where Jay and Tessa come back to the planet to the next issue, which is a pretty good decision because this issue is already cramped enough. We don't need any more. Look, I think you should support Murder Drones, but the problem with that isn't the fact that they're trying to plug their store. It's the fact that they show Sin. Not just any manner Sin, Sin Tessa. That entire reveal could be spoiled by someone going to the online merch store. How did nobody catch that? Is Murder Drones issue 2 good? No. Like, not even close. This is a travesty compared to the show. And I'm not saying the show is perfect, but this is genuinely awful. I have to give this a 2 out of 10. Everything just feels so rushed because they combine those 2 episodes, and all the horror and tension is completely gone. Here we have another glorious cover art featuring camping N and V, as well as a horrifying picture of Solver Uzi. Dare I say, the covers are the best thing about the comic so far? It's rewind time. But why is there that black bar there? Like, I get it, this is a flashback, but you don't need to separate these 2 things. Also, why is Khan's text hyphen thing blue now? It was red in the original. It should have just been blue all throughout. Also, this is the last time we see Thad this issue. He just disappears after this. They had to shorten this to 1 panel due to constraints, but honestly, aside from the text covering some of it, they did a pretty good job at showing what Nori's drawings look like. Also, this might be a me thing, but the teacher's eyes are just a little too red. We have yet another cutscene. You know who it's with? That's right, V. Again. This is becoming a pattern. It helps build up this rivalry between Uzi and V, where both of them don't trust each other. However, for the common good, and N, they agree to be campers this one time, but V isn't letting Uzi out of her sight. Fun fact, instead of having Uzi blabber on here, they could have more directly shown that in the scene where it's red, that that's actually Doll's place and that she went there in between episodes to get more oil. However, I do like how it looks like the high temperature sign is getting burned into her visor. And don't worry, because in case you forgot what it's called, Uzi calls it the solver thing. Yeah, don't worry, I think we know. Also, it has Doll just standing off to the side, or just in a different picture as just a reference, instead of how it was in the show, where Doll stands directly behind Uzi, watching her from the shadows, only to teleport away. It just feels like something's missing from this version. You wanna know what else is missing? The fact that they don't show that the key bug is the one that she finds under the floorboards, hidden away with all the other Cabin Fever Labs stuff. You know, like those secret files and the dead person. Makes you wonder what experiments were really going on there. We got a double here. One art win, how it shows how the solver converts an arrow into living flesh, and one art fail with the fact that there's another black line that's supposed to separate 2 obviously not separated panels. In the show, Brayden ends up shooting a misfire at Uzi, which is why the arrow gets shot at her. Meanwhile in the comic, V knowingly shoots an arrow at Uzi. Why is that? I get Uzi and V don't really like each other, but V wouldn't intentionally try to sabotage Uzi. They've got too much writing on this. In this part, V calls Uzi stupid, little, purple. She sounds like a Discord mod. What are we doing? They had N mention to V to stop killing the worker drones, which we don't see as much in the comic, but yeah, that's fair. Also, they changed a bit of Lizzie's line, but it means basically the same thing. Uzi doesn't talk in the show because she's panicked out of her mind. Unfortunately, they added dialogue here in the comic that doesn't help with anything. Also, there's a random close-up of a golden bug, and I'm not sure why because it doesn't add anything. Uzi then mentions how she doesn't feel too good, but that's probably because she's lactose intolerant. Seriously, why would a robot drink milk? Now, due to the red lighting in the show, it looked like her Selver could have been possessed by Doll. However, they made it purple here, so it's clear that's not the case. Good choice. However, everything else here just misses the vibe. I'm not saying it would be easy to turn an oil canister into a growth like the show does, but you've done that same level of detail before, so what gives? With N's seemingly innocent touch, he's reminded about all the horrors of Manor Sin. Unlike the last one, they do a pretty good job at showing this, but I would have preferred if Sin had been eating the human hand like in the show. Also, N seems to have talk-itis, where he seems to be talking where he didn't in the show, and I'm not sure why this has happened to so many people. On the contrary to the last few, I think this scene is done pretty well. You have Uzi as the disassembly drone eyes, which, if you somehow couldn't tell before, means that she ate her classmates. She does have some random line where she mentions, "What have I done?" But yeah, it's pretty reasonable here. But then the comet commits a first-degree felony, making Brayden's eyes green. They're blue. You made them blue here. What's wrong with you? But who cares? We're getting to the good stuff. Anyways, Red Eyes over here claims he hates everything, like splitting up, camping, and that the unpopular girl has wings. Okay, but why is there such redundant dialogue? Even you too, Red Eyes? Anyways, Red Eyes then makes the face I made when reading this comic. Just kidding. Kinda. Wait, that's supposed to be Sam? His eyes are purple! And that's what I call a reveal. Eldridge J, take notes. Out of all the things that definitely needed its full page art, Silver Uzi is definitely the one, because I feel like she goes a bit underutilized in the actual show. Uzi and Lizzie have some banter over meta commentary, but the problem is that Lizzie here has red eyes. Seriously, who's coloring these? A 5-year-old? And I don't know which is worse, the fact that you got it right once and didn't do anything about it, or the fact that you got it wrong again. The Uzi versus Lizzie fight isn't my favorite, but it's still pretty cool. It'd be a shame if they shortened it to 2 panels now, wouldn't it? Oh, don't even try me. This is the 4th fight you've shortened. It also doesn't make any sense, because it's 2 panels. Look, I think the falling with you scene is great. The problem is, it takes up so much space on the page that could be used for so many other things, like the Uzi and V talk, or the Uzi and V fight that happened earlier. The whole reason why it was funny in the show is because there's just a giant explosion when they hit the ground, and it comes off completely unexpected. This just softens it. Oh, so now you want to develop V's character. Whatever, at least we get the scraps. Besides, any conversation with the teacher is a good one, especially when they get his eye color right. Also, can you please stop saying load before every sentence? I get it, they're robots, but it doesn't mean he's gonna have a foreboding look in the future. He's having a foreboding look now. But this time, there's 2 worker drones outside. And yeah, what they're talking about is kind of funny, so good job, comic. Now it's Tessa and Jay time, and yeah, this art looks really good. I especially like the reflections on Tessa here, but they still skipped over a pretty large parts of the episode. So maybe not have the 2 one-pagers. Overall, issue 2 is a lot better than issue 2, but not as good as issue 1. I would say it's around a 4 out of 10. Mostly because, while it is a pretty good adaptation in some cases, it does still cut a lot of stuff due to time, and also it talks down to the reader a lot, especially in the parts with the added dialogue. So, is it any good? Well, if you're looking at these as works of art, which, if you watch the show, I assume you're doing so, then yeah, sure. If you just want to display the covers, by all means, go ahead. They're the best part of the series so far. And honestly, sometimes I see fragments of a good product. It might be something here or there, but I can definitely see them using the comic format to their fullest extent. But the problem is, the story gets absolutely butchered by the low amount of pages given to this comic. 136 pages just simply wasn't enough to fit everything. So not only do they have to cram dialogue into every panel, but they also need to cut back on the story, which ends up hurting it in so many ways, especially when you consider how rushed the original story of Murder Drones was. Don't worry, guys. I'll release the rest of the issues in a second part to this. But for now, I'll be seeing you. Like and subscribe, and outro.